Durabhago Batalokoyam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam Durabhago Batalokoyam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam. Please repeat.
Durbhago Batalogo Yam Yadhavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam
Durbago Batalogo Yam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samba Santo Navidur Harimina Ivodupam
Durbago Batalogo Yam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samba Santo Navidur Harimina Ivodupam
Durbago Batalogo Yam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam
Durbago Batalogo Yam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam
Majish? Okay, go ahead.
Durbago Batalogo Yam Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam
Majish?
Durbago Batalogo Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam Durbago Batalogo Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam Durbago Batalogo Yadavo Nitaramapi Ye Samvasanto Navidur Harimina Ivodupam
Durbhagaha, unfortunate. Bata, certainly. Lokaha, universe. Ayam, this. Yadavaha, the Yadu dynasty. Nitaram, more specifically. Api, also. Ye, those. Samvasantaha, living together. Na, did not. Viduhu, understand. Harim, the personality of Godhead. Minaha, the fishes. Eva, Udupam, like the moon. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The universe with all its planets is most unfortunate, and even more unfortunate are the members of the Yadu dynasty, because they could not identify Lord Hari as the personality of Godhead, any more than the fish could identify the moon. Purport. Uddhava lamented for the unfortunate persons of the world who could not recognize Lord Sri Krishna in spite of seeing all his transcendental godly qualities. From the very beginning of his appearance within the prison bars of King Kamsa up to his Mausala Leela, although he exhibited his potencies as the personality of Godhead in the six opulences of wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, the foolish persons of the world could not understand that he was the Supreme Lord. Foolish persons might have thought him as an extraordinary historic figure because they had no intimate touch with the Lord. But more unfortunate were the family members of the Lord, the members of the Yadu dynasty who were always in company with the Lord but were unable to recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uddhava lamented his own fortune also because although he knew Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could not properly use the opportunity to render devotional service to the Lord. He regretted everyone's misfortune, including his own. The pure devotee of the Lord thinks himself most unfortunate. That is due to excessive love for the Lord and is one of the transcendental perceptions of viraha, the suffering of separation. It is learned from the revealed scriptures that the moon was born from the milk ocean. There is a milk ocean in the upper planets, and there Lord Vishnu, who controls the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the supersoul, resides as the Kshir Dokashai Vishnu. Those who do not believe in the existence of the ocean of milk because they have experience only of the salty water in the ocean should know that the world is also called the go, which means the cow. The urine of the cow is salty, and according to the Ayurvedic medicine, the cow's urine is very effective in treating patients suffering from liver trouble. Such patients may not have any experience of the cow's milk because the milk is never given to liver patients. But the liver patient may know that the cow has milk also, although he has never tasted it. Similarly, men who have experience only of this tiny planet where the saltwater ocean exists may take information from the revealed scriptures that there is also an ocean of milk, although we have never seen it. From this ocean of milk, the moon was born. But the fish in the milk ocean could not recognize that the moon was not another fish and was different from them. The fish took the moon to be one of them, or maybe something illuminating, but nothing more. The unfortunate persons who do not recognize Lord Krishna are like such fish. They take him to be one of them, although a little extraordinary and opulent, straight, etc. The Bhagavad Gita confirms such foolish persons to be unfortunate. Avajananti ma mudha manashim tanam ashritam. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakya Chakshura Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Krishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutali Swayamupakadah Mayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnamamshta Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagna Ragadantam Vidam Tam Shijivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamshta Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutali Shmate Bhakti Vikasa Swamin Iti Namane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutali Shmate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvashesha Shunavadi Pashkatya Deshtarane Vudir Mahadviri Mahpuravli Born Niramaya Shatiya Mushi Purasha Bum Degunan Shudasha Shudashatmaka Shalun Kushishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me. So before I touch on the verse, there's a couple of events today. Today's Ratha Yatra, which most of us know, or at least we're familiar with. This is phone is the closest the phone gets, so that's as good as the audio gets. We're lacking a mic, so Ratha Yatra, most of us are familiar with, and Puri, which at least some of us have been. Some of us were there during the Harinam where we were going. So they pull Lord Jagannath from Puri temple to Gundicha temple, which is, I don't know exactly how long it is. Some of us walked this, so we're familiar how long it is. It's quite a distance actually, especially to pull such a huge chariot like that. It took us maybe 2 hours just to walk the whole way, something like that. And that's just walking, what to speak of pulling the whole chariot. So it takes the whole Ratha Yatra, the pulling, the forward rat, it takes about a day on average. I think I've heard elsewhere sometimes it takes more than a day, but generally it takes a day. Then Lord Jagannath, he stays at Gundicha Mandir for a week, and then there's a return rat, which is apparently, so I've heard, even bigger than the main Ratha Yatra, which is today. So, it's described, the inner meaning of Ratha Yatra is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that it's the residents of Vrindavan, Radharani, her associates, the gopis, all the associates of the residents of Vrindavan, dragging Krishna back to Vrindavan. Gundicha Mandir is representative of that, and Puri is representative of Dwarka. So, if you want to read more, know more, you can read Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a gloss. I don't have so much time. And so yeah, the Rath Yatra is going on today in Puri. Lord Jagannath will be staying at Gundicha temple for the next week, and then there's the festival of Odana Shashti, which will be coming up soon. That's also described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's basically when Lakshmi Devi comes and drags, almost as if, Lord Jagannath back to Puri temple. So we'll speak on that in about a week or so. Some speaker will. It's also the appearance or disappearance? Disappearance of both, of Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami and Sri Shivananda Sen. They're both very prominent devotees of Lord Chaitanya. If you've read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know these names. At least probably most of us know Swarup Damodar Goswami. In Krishna Lila, he's Vishaka Devi. There's two opinions. The most prominent, Kavi Karnapur, he opines that it's Vishaka Devi. Others, they opine that he's Lalita in Krishna Lila. But Kavi Karnapur, he identifies Ramananda Roy as Lalita and Swarup Damodar Goswami as Vishaka Devi. So, Swarup Damodar Goswami is one of the 3.5 intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya. He's described as the second body of Lord Chaitanya, an expansion of Lord Chaitanya's own body. Mahaprabhu Hoy Inha Dvitiya Kalevara, that he's almost as if an expansion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He described Lord Chaitanya's later pastimes because of his mercy, because he kept a journal. Murari Gupta, he kept a journal, Kavacha, of Lord Chaitanya's early pastimes when he was in Navadvip. Therefore, we have Chaitanya Bhagavat and also some small description in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita is mainly Madhya Lila, Antya Lila was mainly compiled from the notes, but specifically Antya Lila, especially, it was compiled from the notes of Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was always there intimately with Lord Chaitanya. If what we read in the Antya Lila, we're able to know that because Swarup Damodar Goswami, he noted it down in a brief form. And then he told Raghunath Das Goswami, who then told Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So it's because of Swarup Damodar Goswami that we have access to these things. I mean, so much could be said. I don't have so much time. He was the head of the devotees in Puri. Yeah. If somebody wanted to meet Lord Chaitanya, he was the filter through which they passed through. If somebody wanted to read some composition or some verse they composed to Lord Chaitanya, he would filter it out. Not filter, but verify it and make sure that it's not rasabhas, not against the conclusions of devotional service. He was known for his very sweet singing, and he would sing sweetly. Specifically Bhagavatam, he would recite Bhagavatam as well. The songs of Jayadev, Chandidas, Vidyapati, etc. like this to Lord Chaitanya, privately, at night. Lord Chaitanya very much appreciated that. He could understand the ecstasy of Lord Chaitanya. When Lord Chaitanya entered a particular sort of ecstasy or a particular type of mood, himself being described almost as if the expansion of Lord Chaitanya, he would understand Lord Chaitanya's mind and consequently recite a verse, sing a verse or some composition just to suit Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy. So this is it in brief. He's a very prominent devotee. If you've read Chaitanya Charitamrita, you're well acquainted with him. Today's his disappearance day. And then the disappearance day of Shivananda Sen is also a very prominent devotee of Lord Chaitanya, particularly in, both in Navadvip and Lord Chaitanya's Puri pastimes. He had association. He lives in Navadvip and then he comes to Puri during the Chaturmasa period with other devotees from Bengal. So Shivananda in Krishna Lila, his form is Vira Gopi, who previously, her responsibility was to bring all the gopis to Krishna. So Shivananda Sen, he fulfills, you could say, the same role or a similar role in Gaura Lila, in that he's the guide of the devotees. So when Lord Chaitanya moved to Puri, I'll give it in brief for those of you who haven't read, Lord Chaitanya was residing in Puri and the devotees in Navadvip were feeling separation from Lord Chaitanya. So every year during the Chaturmasik period, which is now, before now actually, because they would be there for Rath Yatra as well, they would, rainy season in other words, they would journey from Navadvip to Puri, and Shivananda saying he would take all the devotees along the path. He would arrange for their accommodations, take care of any highwaymen, etc. like that, fares, taxes, tolls, like that. There are many stories with him in Chaitanya Charitamrita, many dealings with Nityananda Prabhu because of his Shivananda's failure one day to arrange for accommodation for the devotees. He cursed his 3 sons to die, which I don't know whatever happened in that. It looks like it wasn't fulfilled because Kavi Karnapur, which is his son who compiled the Ganesha Deepika, which I'm citing from, which gives the identities of Lord Chaitanya's associates. He continued on like that, so I don't know that curse ever came to fruition. Ultimately, he left his body, but maybe not immediately. So yeah, Shivananda is saying he would take devotees from Bengal. Kavi Karnapur was his son, very prominent devotee. There's the story, probably most famous, Shivananda Sain is associated with delivering even a dog back to Godhead. One day, I believe he was going on his way to Puri with the other devotees, and the devotees from Bengal, they would, well, not the devotees, but some dog just started accompanying the party. And Shivananda Sain, he started to look after the dog, and he would feed the dog every single day. And then one day, they had to cross a river even, and the boatman is India, so dogs are considered very abominable there, which they are. Not just there, they are, the correct understanding. But the boatman, he wouldn't have let the dog come on his boat to get across the river. It's not proper. So Shivananda Sain, he became very upset by this. He said, he paid a boat fare even for the dog to cross, and then the boatman took the dog over like that. So he would feed this dog every day, and one day he forgot to feed the dog. And then the dog, when he forgot to feed the dog suddenly went missing. So Shivananda Sain, he was so distraught, he stopped eating, and he immediately sent 10 men out to search for this dog, and they couldn't find the dog. Eventually, they couldn't find the dog, and the party, the Bengal devotees and Shivananda Sain, they reached Puri, and they met with Lord Chaitanya, and they saw Lord Chaitanya. That same dog was there at the feet of Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was feeding this dog his own Mahaprasadam, some bits of coconut pulp, I think. And then Lord Chaitanya, he told the dog, he ordered the dog to chant Hare Krishna, and then the dog started chanting Hare Krishna. And then Shivananda saying that he saw this, and then he paid obeisances, Dandavat Pranam to the dog, and apologized to the dog, and I'm so sorry I forgot to feed you that one day. And then after that day, it's described, if my memory serves me right, the dog then disappeared. Nobody saw the dog again, and he attained the spiritual form and went back home to Godhead. So by the mercy, the point is made there in Srila Prabhupada's purpose, by the mercy of Shivananda Sain, because he was merciful upon this dog, even this dog got the association of Lord Chaitanya because of the mercy of Shivananda Sain. So that's the potency of Lord Chaitanya's devotees. There's other pastimes, but I won't narrate them for sake of time. So these are two prominent devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Also, just something else about Saurabh Damodar Goswami. He would sing very sweetly, I mentioned. He was one of today's Ratha Yatra. During Ratha Yatra, during Lord Chaitanya's times, they would form different parties around the cart. And one of these, they would have, each party would have a lead dancer, a lead singer, etc. like this. And Lord Chaitanya will be in all the parties simultaneously, just like Krishna was simultaneously with each gopi in Rasa Leela. So Saurabh Damodar Goswami, he headed one of these parties. Just since today is also Ratha Yatra, I thought to mention that. So today's verse, so Uddhava is lamenting. There's a couple different points to this purport that the Yadava dynasty, they couldn't identify Lord Krishna. He's specifically lamenting his own misfortune. Although he had the fortune of associating with Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, he couldn't recognize him and take advantage of the opportunity. And so Srila Prabhupada, he writes his purport in this effect, actually going off the same sentiment, but this is not exactly on the transcendental path. In one sense, it's true, and in another sense, it's not. It's symptomatic of his ecstasy. Srila Prabhupada, he writes, transcendental perceptions of viraha, the suffering of separation. And so undoubtedly, Uddhava was extremely fortunate. He had the association of Krishna throughout his life. He thought of Krishna throughout his life. And then at the end, Krishna, before leaving this world, Uddhava was one of the last, I don't know if exactly the last or definitely one of the last devotees that Lord Krishna saw, because he personally spoke the Uddhava Gita to Uddhava. So Uddhava received a very, even the knowledge that Arjuna was given in although Bhagavad Gita is very famous, practically Uddhava Gita, you could say goes higher than Bhagavad Gita, because the culmination of Gita, of course, you can read more into Gita and extract different meanings, and acharyas have done that, but as far as Arjuna, the conclusion of Gita was Sarvadharman Parityaja, Mamikam Sharanam Vraja, just surrender unto me and I'll deliver you. But in Uddhava Gita, Krishna goes much, much, much higher. He describes the loving sentiments of the gopis of Vrindavan, the most elevated mellows of devotional service. So Uddhava was given knowledge that not even other devotees had access to. Elsewhere, we'll read, so it comes later in this third canto, that Uddhava was given knowledge of the Param Sthanam, or the highest destination of devotional service, which even Lord Brahma, he didn't have access to. Lord Brahma, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam in a succinct form, and we have those 4 verses that he did, it was recited before. Of course, everything's in those 4 verses, but the details of Lord Krishna and his dealings in Vrindavan, those weren't even given to Lord Brahma. So, but Uddhava had access to this knowledge. Therefore, he's described as one of the most confidential devotees of the Lord. He's placed in that one of the topmost positions, at least in Mathura Vrindavan, like that. So, Uddhava was incredibly fortunate, but the nature of a elevated devotee, Srila Prabhupada writes somewhere in this purport, is that he doesn't think himself to be very fortunate. Rather, he thinks himself to be most fallen, and that everybody else is engaged in the service of Krishna. So Uddhava is seeing like this. Actually, he's seeing that the whole Yadava dynasty, they couldn't identify the Lord, and he's lamenting like this. So, but actually, and Srila Prabhupada writes like this, the members of the Yadu dynasty couldn't identify, but actually, the members of the Yadu dynasty, because they're, generally speaking, their understanding of Krishna was mixed with Aishwarya, or Krishna's opulence, they could also identify at times, not fully, just like, for example, Krishna's father, Vasudeva, he was also Yadava, but at times he understood that Krishna was God, and at other times he thought of Krishna as his son. So he understood both things. It wasn't that the Yadavas were entirely ignorant of Krishna's Godhead, as Uddhava is thinking here. So yeah, that's one point. There's 2 distinctions that are given here. One transcendental and one material. So he's lamenting for the unfortunate person, Uddhava is lamenting for the unfortunate persons of the world who cannot recognize Lord Sri Krishna in spite of seeing all his transcendental good qualities. So he's lamenting both for the devotees, which in one sense some understood who Krishna was. Of course, all the devotees, even if they don't fully understand, as in the case of Malaya Shoda, etc., still they fully understand. One interesting aspect of Krishna is that he's Swayam Bhagavan. So who Krishna is a cowherd boy in Vrindavan. Although sometimes, just like, there's this verse in the first canto, first chapter, Kritavan Kila Karamanis, Saharami na Keshavaha, Ati Martyani Bhagavan Gura Kapata Manushaha. Translation, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts. So Lord Krishna came, he presented himself as if a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, he lived as if the son of Mother Yashoda, etc. like this. But at the same time, it's not exactly that Krishna is presenting himself like that. In one sense he's not, he is. In another sense he's not. Because Krishna, being God himself, is a cowherd boy. It's not that he necessarily assumes the role of cowherd boy. Of course, he can assume whatever role he wants, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But rather, it's more of an understanding that, it's not that Vishnu is assuming the role of being a cowherd boy in the form of Krishna. Rather, Krishna, God, as a cowherd boy, assumes the role of Mahavishnu and accepts the pastime of creating the material world. Just like we say, Namaste Purusha, what is that? How does that first verse of Shukadev Goswami prayers go? Namo Namaste Stavurushabhaya Sattvatam Vidur Kashtaya. No, that's a different. That's like Abhimanyu Sutta equals that. Namaste Purusham Dvarim, something else. Grihita Shakta Tritaraya Dehinam. Anyway, that's the important line. That the Krishna, Shukadev Goswami praying to Krishna, he says, Grihita Shakti Tritaraya Dehinam. As a pastime, you accept these three modes of material nature. So, similarly, we have in Lord Brahma's prayers, he glorifies, I will not be able to remember the Sanskrit, but he glorifies Krishna as assuming the role of Mahavishnu lying down on the causal ocean. And from him, all these material universes are being created. But at the end, he says this line, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So the Adi Purusha, the original person, Krishna, as a cowherd boy, is assuming all these incarnations. He's manifesting himself as all these different incarnations. So, on one hand, Krishna, so this point, Krishna, on one hand, he's hiding his opulences, and he's presenting himself as if, assuming this role in the Leela he displayed in this world, but at the same time, it's his own position. Krishna is like that. Of course, this is Dwarka Leela, but especially that in Vrindavan, that's his own position. Of course, in Goloka Vrindavan, there are more pastimes. They're slightly different, but Krishna is the same. So that's one interesting point. I don't have so much time, but I want to touch on one point in this purport. It's kind of a side tangential to the point I'm making now. But Srila Prabhupada writes here, it's a little material point, but it's within the Vedas, so it's worth mentioning, that the urine of a cow is salty. According to Ayurvedic medicine, the cow's urine is very effective in treating patients suffering from liver trouble. I was just seeing yesterday, actually, I saw one devotee a few days ago. One devotee, he said something like he had been suffering from liver cirrhosis of the liver, which is like a disease basically of the liver, which was quite severe. And he went to modern medical doctors, and they say, yeah, basically it's hopeless, more or less, because it had progressed to such a point. But then he started taking cow urine every single day for something like 2-3 years straight, and he said it was completely disgusting. But it cured his liver problem. I thought that was very amazing. I'm just reading this here. I read that, I was like, wow, that's pretty far out. So, what Prabhupada right, even though it's something completely tangential, you see, Srila Prabhupada is quoting Ayurvedic science here. He says it's very effective for treating patients suffering from liver trouble. So, some interesting point, one devotee practically had that realization. So, other points back on the main topic. So the Yadavas didn't recognize Krishna because of transcendental, or apparently some devotees didn't. At times they did, at times they didn't. Uddhava as well, due to transcendental symptoms. But Uddhava is also lamenting those people, those Yadavas, such as Kamsa, I believe, was also within Yadava dynasty, who didn't recognize Krishna at all due to material reasons, due to being a demon. So he's lamenting both sides. And Srila Prabhupada quotes here at the end, Avajananti ma mudha marashim tanumashitam. Elsewhere, Kunti prays, Maya javanika chanam agya dokshajamaviyam nalakshase muradarsha natyo dharo yata. That just as an actor playing on a stage is not recognized, so similarly to you, Krishna, you are covered by a curtain of Maya for the mudhas. The mudhas, they don't see you because of your deluding potency. So similarly, not similarly, that's how it is, Kamsa was bewildered in the sense that he couldn't understand that he saw Krishna as death personified, but he couldn't understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He couldn't understand, he may have thought that Krishna is a cowherd boy, but he couldn't, he may, as Srila Prabhupada is writing here, he may have thought him to be a little extraordinary in opulence, strength, etc. But he couldn't understand that the extent of Krishna's glories. So it's not exactly the same, it's completely different actually from the positions of the resident of Vrindavan, who have unalloyed love for Krishna. So similarly to the demons within this world, although they may be presented Krishna, they can't understand Krishna. Just like so many people, they may go to a temple or see the deity. So people come here, they see the Krishna Balaram here. They may be just seeing a picture. They can't understand as Krishna. I was just thinking today, well, I'll get back to that. I mean, so similarly, the name of Krishna, so many people are hearing the name of Krishna when we go out and chant. How many people are understand? But how many people actually understand that that's Krishna himself? Very, very, very few. So similarly too, Paramatma is within every living entity. But how many people can recognize that? So the same phenomenon is not new. What was going on, people not being able to understand Krishna, same thing is going on today. Even though Krishna may be in front of them, still, it doesn't necessarily qualify one to understand Krishna. Rather, the understanding is done by the process of hearing. So similarly too, I was thinking that also devotees fall under this category. One can't necessarily understand a devotee simply by seeing him. So many, of course, there's that famous narration we've probably heard many times of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, how one friend of Bhaktivinoda Thakur was meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he was saying, oh, I used to meet with her father so much in his childhood, I knew him very well. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he told him, you never saw Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you never met him. And the man became very offended because he would regularly see Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his childhood, even when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was in Bhaktisiddhanta's childhood, So he would say, how are you saying this? Because this man was thinking of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in mundane terms. In other words, he couldn't understand who Bhaktivinoda Thakur as an eternal associate of Krishna actually was. So similarly too, also Srila Prabhupada, he had his family, but his family wasn't necessarily thinking of him as Sinapati Bhakta, Lord Chaitanya. As Srila Prabhupada writes here, somewhere in here, he says, due to familiarity. So due to familiarity, even though a pure devotee has family members, or may meet with so many, not even necessarily family, due to family friends, they may not understand his position. Even God brothers may not understand. Srila Prabhupada, he had so many God brothers, but who, as he said, that most of them were envious and they couldn't understand what he was doing. Some of them did, some of them appreciated. Sridhar Swami, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he called Srila Prabhupada's Shakti Avesh Avatar. But others, they thought, as others thinking of Krishna, they may have thought he's a God brother, a little extraordinary in opulence, straight, etc., but not fully realizing who Srila Prabhupada was. So even for a devotee, even among devotees, the glory of a devotee may not necessarily be manifest due to different reasons, familial attachment, being overly familiar with a devotee, etc., like that. It may obscure our vision of who that devotee is or what that devotee is actually doing. So yes, Srila Prabhupada also met with many scholars. Many people saw Srila Prabhupada, just as many people saw Krishna, but how many of them actually took up Krishna consciousness? Very, very few. Even a lot of people heard Srila Prabhupada. It's not that they were just seeing. Krishna instructed only a few people. Srila Prabhupada, he instructed practically everybody he met. But still, how many people could understand who Srila Prabhupada actually was? Therefore, this verse, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kashtidya Tati Sigideye, that very, very few people, they take up and become perfect in Krishna consciousness. So too, I was also thinking, even Tulasi Devi, I was seeing her this morning, I was thinking, how many people, even I myself, I just look at it, and my consciousness is so mundane, I just sometimes think, it's like a plant, but it's not a plant. She's a pure devotee of the Lord, completely pure devotee. She's here every single morning. We have the capacity to take care of her, but how many people even understand that? So many people will come for the Sunday program, and they wonder, what is this plant on the altar? Because the vision isn't there, because she's not manifest to anybody and everybody. But she can, as we pray, what is that? Jaitamor Sharanaloy, Tar Vanchapur Nahoy, that she can fulfill the desires of everyone. Whatever your desire is, she can fulfill it. Of course, we pray for residence in Vrindavan and service to Radha and Krishna, but she has that potency. She's such a personality. But she's not exhibited to anybody and everybody. So, it's a truncated class. It's short. I've covered all the points in the purport in brief, so I'll end it there. If anybody has any questions, I can take them now. Yeah. We have until 8:30, and then I have to stop.
The reason why Bhaktisiddhanta was like tried out with him because he said he also taught him Bhagavad Gita. And he was like, you
Oh,
definitely,
really?
yeah, you definitely didn't teach him. And he was like, that's why you was like, you didn't know who he was. Like, you saw him, but you really didn't like see him because you thought you could like teach that.
Good point, yeah.
I was wondering if devotees like, or not devotees, people like Kamsa and Shishupal, are they in Yogamaya or Mahamaya?
Mahamaya. They're demon. Well, Shishupal Yogamaya because he's the Jagger guy. I don't know. One of the. He's an associate of the Lord that took birth. But Kamsa is just a demon. So yeah, there are people like Kamsa who can't recognize. Shishupal was bewildered. He couldn't recognize because of Yogamaya. But Kamsa he couldn't recognize. Also because of Yogamaya, as in one sense is always Yogamaya, Maya Javanikacha Nam, but Yogamaya is just like, we have HVAC and it manifests as heating or cool. So sometimes we make a distinction between Yogamaya and Mahamaya. But Kamsa was Mahamaya. So.
Similar to that question, in the purport it says that he remembers the Yadav dynasty, they couldn't recognize Krishna.
Yeah.
But it's mentioned that
Sometimes they could.
there are demigods, there are demigods that can't.
Yeah, that's another point I thought about.
They are
demigods.
So they are devotees. And I remember reading in the 11th canto that part of it's on the pretext, but part of the reason why the Yadav dynasty fell, because it's like the incident where, I forget his name, I think Samba or something. The little boy, yeah, and then he like tricked Narada Muni saying that he was pregnant or something like that.
Yeah.
And the purport I remember reading that the reason why the Yadu dynasty fell because members of the Yadu dynasty deviated from the path of devotion to Krishna by irreligious acts such as like offending Vaishnavas. So is it that they couldn't recognize Krishna because some of them were deviating, or is it because
I don't remember that part of the purport. I'm not saying you're wrong, I just don't remember that part. It could be, possibly. There are multiple reasons why Krishna annihilated the Yadu dynasty. Because they were overburdening the earth itself. Krishna came to remove the earth's burden. That means both the burden of the demons and also of even the pious Yadavas. Another reason is that Krishna didn't want to leave behind any sort of dynasty, lest people claim that, as had happened with Nityananda Prabhu Advaita. Nityananda Prabhu actually no, but people claim like that he didn't want to leave behind a seminal line, and it'd be misunderstood one has to take spiritual instruction from the seminal line, descending from Lord Krishna. So that's also another reason that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives. But it could be if they're deviating.
so why
If you read like that.
Why could they not recognize Krishna?
Why could they not recognize
even
Krishna?
Though they were demigods, and they were devotees.
Well, even the demigods, they can't recognize Krishna. It's not something new. Just like Indra, he couldn't recognize Krishna when he saw Krishna, but when he was showering rain over Vrindavan, he didn't understand that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of God. Even Lord Brahma, who's a pure devotee, and he's the topmost of all demigods, even he couldn't recognize Krishna when during, I forget the name of it, but the Brahma Vimohan Lila, etc. like that. So it was nothing new. What is that? Muhyanti Yatsuryaha, etc. In the first verse of Bhagavad, even great demigods, they're placed into illusion. So it's nothing new. As to why, well, demigods are also influenced by the modes of material nature, so that's why. Okay? You have something? Okay. I'll give it like a little bit, because otherwise you get the Mataji's get cut every single time.
I really appreciate that point about the familiarity is the reason why we can't see, the pure devotees. And I was just wondering, two questions. Like, the more practical one is like amongst devotees, how do we avoid not seeing like the greatness of devotees due to that familiarity? And then when it came to Uddhava, how did he view Krishna and what light did he see him?
As a friend, Uddhava is situated. Well, actually, no, not necessarily. I'm trying to think. Mainly as a servant, if I'm not wrong. Chiefly as a servant. I think that's the example given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, although my knowledge is hazy. Definitely as a servant, among also, actually, yeah. I don't think it was. I think it was just pure servitude. I think he's giving as an exemplar of that nectar devotion. My memory is serving me. Other people are also confirming. So servitude, dasya, and that's it for Uddhava. How do you avoid familiarity with other devotees? Familiarity is not necessarily bad. It's just like the Yadavas were. Arjuna was friendly with Krishna. He would lie down on the same bed as Krishna, etc., like that. So it's not bad to be familiar with devotees. It's bad. It can be bad. We shouldn't let it be bad. How do you avoid it? You can serve the devotees. That's one way. Doing like menial service, we can call it, for the devotees. Thinking of yourself always as a servant. One thing is that we use this word Prabhu, or at least among the men. One thing is that a devotee, he always thinks himself as a servant as other devotees. And he thinks, so other devotees are consequently his masters. So he always thinks himself as a servant, even though there may be friendship. Even among Krishna's associates, the explanation is given there. One may be in some different rasa, one may be in a rasa of friendship, for example. But still, that sense of friendship, you still find the sense of servitude in there. So even though you may have a very close relationship among a devotee, with a devotee, or maybe familiar, we'll say with a devotee, it's still good to maintain that sense of being a servant. Another thing is understanding that they're servants of Krishna. That mentality, that vision can also help, that this person is the property of Krishna. Krishna is allowing me to associate with this devotee, and I should consequently behave like that. It's difficult sometimes, but these remembrances can help, etc. It can bring us back. Just like when we chant japa, it's difficult to focus sometimes, but due to remembrance, we can bring our mind back to the holy name. So similarly too, we may become overly familiar with a devotee, but we should remember these things and come back like that. Familiarity is not bad though. It's just being overly familiar can be bad. So, okay. Okay, yeah, I'll give 2 minutes then. 5-minute allowance.
This is call failed. Is someone else trying to call? It's not working for me.
I can try. Oh, okay, he's sending in the group. He says, Uddhava is Krishna's closest friend in Dwarka, and also Krishna's cousin. The example of servitude for Krishna is Rakataka. I'm probably saying that wrong. So answering your question, Mataji. Uddhava is Krishna's closest friend in Dwarka. Usually associates in Dwarka, they're also mixed with a sense of opulence. It's not the same friendship in Dwarka. It's half of friendship. It's not the same friendship as the friendship we find in Vrindavan, which is completely unalloyed. So Uddhava is representative of that. That's given in Nectar of Devotion. So I was wrong. It's not servitude. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.